Are you looking for a podcast that is the perfect blend of paranormal and pop culture?
Starting off with spooky stuff where we talk cryptids and ghosts.
And then we have our pop culture section where we sometimes have celebrity guests.
Whoa.
Yeah, do you want more?
Boy, howdy.
There's always genre news and all kinds of celebrity deaths. All kinds of it. If you're a celebrity and you die, we're going to talk about it.
I actually was hoping for UFOs.
Well, bet your ass we got that too at the end.
Earthling Entertainment. New episodes every Thursday.
Make sure to check us out anywhere you get your podcasts.
Welcome to Zombie Strains, the podcast that watches all the zombie movies. This week we have a movie without any zombies. Or are there zombies hidden somewhere in the film? It's 1965's Bunny Lake is Missing.
You know, I've seen people act like that in pictures. What do they call them? Zombies or something?
Zombies?
What's a zombie? Well, a zombie, there's, Mr. Bill is... The living dead.
They are the living dead.
Get into zombies. It's an army of zombies no armies could stand.
The unburied dead are coming back to life and seeking human victims.
I saw the dead rise.
Kill the brain, and you kill the ghoul.
Welcome to Zombie Strains. I'm John.
And I'm Andy.
Hey, Andy, how long into the movie Bunny Lake is Missing did you understand the assignment?
It was... So I'm not sure if I correctly have the assignment understood, but I think I figured out why we were watching this movie about halfway through.
Okay, so here's the assignment, and I want you actually tell our listeners. Well, let me pause for a second. So, no producer Brad this week, and you're about to find out why. So, and we mentioned it in a previous episode, but we'll just explain it here. So, Andy, how did this episode come about?
Yes, well, so we are in between seasons. We just wrapped up season 2, in which we covered zombie movies from the 50s and 60s. In just very shortly, we are going to start a new season where we enter in the scary 70s to see what zombie films await us there. But we have a little bit of space in between where Brad is doing some prep work to prepare for the new season. And John and I figured we'd use this opportunity to do a couple of special or just little side episodes about some zombie-related, definitely zombie-related stuff. And so Brad came to us on the idea. He said, I have a movie you guys should watch and cover, but I need you not to read anything about it before you click play to start watching it.
That's
so,
right.
John, I stuck to that script. Did you cheat and look this up before you watched it?
I did not. I was good.
Me neither. So John and I went into this blind, and notably, Brad didn't say anything about why we didn't cover this in our normally as we were covering other films in the 60s, nor did he give us any hint about what we were going to find in it.
So I knew nothing. I clicked on it and the movie started and it just said, Bunny Lake is Missing. And I'm like, what is this? So, so here's the assignment, Andy, that you did not perhaps understand.
Yeah.
And you have to know producer Brad. This is something I love about producer Brad. So he loves more than anything trivia, long form projects, and doing like archival stuff, right? So, but if he knows a piece of trivia or knows something fun, he doesn't just tell you. You have to work. Okay. So the assignment here, and these are, let me give an example of another thing that he did a couple of years ago, and I found this delightful. Some people find this, like you mentioned in our pre-show, that it felt a little bit like a practical joke, and it kind of is, but it isn't really. So let me tell you this story.
Yeah.
He sent me a link. He said, listen to this song and tell me what you think and who the singer is. I'm like, okay. So the song was the song was These Are the Days by a band called Inhaler, which is a current band. They've released 3 albums. Listening to the song, I'm like, boy, that sure sounds like Bono singing. So I messaged Brad and I said, Bono sounds really young in this song. And Brad said, that's because it's Bono's son in this band Inhaler.
Oh,
and
my goodness.
I'd never heard of the band. I didn't know he knows I love U2 and Bono. I didn't know he had a son. I didn't know any of this. So, but he knew I would love this factoid, but he's not just going to tell me. He's going to make a little adventure out of it. And that's what he did today. So here was the assignment, Andy. Figure out why this movie with no zombies, why he picked it and told us why to watch it. Where's the Easter egg in this movie that we have to find to know why he picked it? And I found it, and I don't think we should reveal it until we get there. I'm just wondering if you found it too.
So I certainly found what I think is that Easter egg.
Okay.
So I think we should not even spoil it for ourselves, but I think we should just stumble across it organically as we discuss the film. Sound good? And then maybe we have different Easter eggs in mind. I don't know.
Well, let me first say, let's do the producer Brad bit. He's not here today, and I will do that. Bunny Lake is Missing was released in 1965. Rather than list other 1965 films, I've listed the zombie movies we watched in 1965, which are Dr. Orloff's Monster and the episode of The Man from U.N.C.L.E., A Very Important Zombie Affair. So this film was based on a book. It was published in 1957. It is also called Bunny Lake is Missing. It was written by a woman named Miriam Modell. However, she went by the pen name Evelyn Piper. The film is directed by Otto Preminger, who is a legend. He directed a bunch of noir films, including Fallen Angel, Angel Face, but he also directed a lot of more famous films. He directed a film version of Anatomy of a Murder, Stalag 17, and Exodus. So a lot of sort of post-World War II kind of films. And he's known as a sort of thriller director, which definitely suits this movie. It was written by John and Penelope Mortimer. They were a husband and wife team. John went on to write about 90 films, nothing super famous. Penelope was his wife. They wrote 9 films together, so they were a writing team. And they may have continued to be so and just credited differently for, political reasons in Hollywood. I don't actually know. I didn't dig into them that much. But their composer was Paul Glass, no relation to Philip. He did scores for about 9 films. And I think the score here is very good. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the exciting part, and the part that I immediately knew this wasn't our normal zombie movie. So the lead of the film, whose name is Anne Lake, is played by Carol Lindley. She is great in this film, but she's also been in every British TV show. She was just a working actress from about here till about the early 2000s. Just other highlights, she was in The Poseidon Adventure.
Oh.
If you loved early 80s TV, she was on multiple episodes of Fantasy Island and Heart to Heart, just all that kind of stuff. And just a working actor that worked for a long time. And she starred in several films and then just kept, she was not a superstar her whole life, but just kept being a working actor like so many of the people that we run into in these things. Okay, here's the other names, however. The first name is Keir Delay. He's been in one other really big film, but he's largely a stage actor. Did you recognize him, Andy?
I did not.
He plays Dave Bowman in 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh, that's so obvious now that you say it. Okay.
Yeah, and he's kind of like Dwayne Jones. He stayed in the theater. He wanted to be a theater actor. He did do a few movies. This is one of them, and 2001: A Space Odyssey is the other. Also, he got 5 minutes in 2010 Space Odyssey in the late 80s, for which he was paid $1 million at the time. That was an extraordinary sum because he didn't want to do it. He's a stage actor, but he had to play like the ghost of Dave Bowman in the sequel. Okay. And so they paid him $1 gajillion to act next to Roy Scheider for 5 minutes. So, and then we have, as the police inspector in this film, Laurence Olivier. So if you're of a certain age, like a Gen Xer, you consider Laurence Olivier one of the great actors. If I can give you some of his films, he obviously did a Hamlet. He did a Richard III. His Henry V was considered the ultimate Henry V until Kenneth Branagh's came out. And the reason it was that it was set. It wasn't just a filmed play. It was like a production of Henry V as set in the 15th century or in the 1600s. And so like you got to see backstage and like the earls and dukes and these actors who are playing all these different parts are tossing off mugs of ale in the background. And like, it's a great movie if you want to see it. Also, more relevant and more modern, he was in the Battle of Britain, of course. He was in Marathon Man with Dustin Hoffman, and he was in The Boys from Brazil with Gregory Peck. And I like to tell little Laurence Olivier stories because let me just say, like, if you were to say today, like who is the actor, right? You might say somebody like Meryl Streep, right? Who's just like head and shoulders above everybody else. You might also say like Daniel Day-Lewis, right? Of course, Lawrence would have hated He would have loathed Daniel Day-Lewis because he loathed method actors. He came out with a biography in the late 80s, and I would like to tell a story from it, which was he was working on Marathon Man with Dustin Hoffman, a young Dustin Hoffman who is a method actor. And when they did their scenes together, Dustin would come in and he would have gone out. So I won't tell you the whole plot of the movie, but his character, Dustin Hoffman's character, it runs. He's a runner. And so he has a scene where Laurence Olivier's character is torturing him. He's strapped to a chair and he's doing dental torture on him. Laurence Olivier is playing an concentration camp doctor. And so Dustin would come in to do their scenes and he would have done, he's like, oh, I ran all these miles. I ran like 10 miles this morning. He'd be completely sweaty, a complete mess. And Laurence Olivier looked at him and said, my dear boy, if you would simply learn to act, you wouldn't have to do any of this. So, if that's like my favorite Laurence Olivier type story. So in any case.
That's good.
Yeah, he's the ultimate King Lear. He did everything. There's two other people I want to mention really quick and then we can get into it. So there's a woman named Ann Massey who plays Elvira, the manager of the school. She's like a harried woman whose cook has just quit, and like she's definitely that guy. She's been in every British TV show. If you watch Poirot,
Miss Smollett in this movie, is it?
I believe so. Yes, Miss Smollett, Elvira Smollett.
She has a very she pops out on the screen.
Yeah, absolutely. And she was in The Importance of Being Earnest, The Machinist. She was in Poirot. Name a British TV show, she's been in it. I recognized her as somebody that's like, oh, hey, it's that person. The other one is this guy, Clive Revel. He's another that guy. He was in A Bridge Too Far, but also he was in every 80s and 90s sci-fi show. He was in Babylon 5, Star Trek The Next Generation. Like he did the circuit of 3 episodes in every big genre show at the time. Most importantly for you and I, Andy, however, is he was the voice of Imperial Officer Number 2 in X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, the video game. So,
of course.
There you go.
Who could forget that memorable
if you look up Clive Revel, it's Revill, you'll be like, oh, that guy. Yeah, you'll recognize him. So in any case, there is another actor I'd like to mention when we get to it, but I'm not going to mention it now because it'll be more delightful later. So Andy, right off the gate, we're going to go into this, but what did you think of this film?
So I enjoyed this one, John.
It's a good movie.
I found this to be a real delight.
Like, we rarely get to see, it's been sort of since I Walked with a Zombie, I want to say. Maybe not that long, but like where you see a professional at the height of their powers acting with other professionals who are at the height of their powers. Like this movie just couldn't be bad.
You can tell, we've watched so many bad movies, and I say bad, in a loving way, I can now tell within like 30 seconds just by how the camera is being operated, whether we're so
yeah. Just for the record, this guy has a tomato meter rating of 86 and a popcorn meter of 77 and has like a 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb. So for a 60-year-old movie to get ratings that good, obviously people still reflect it or still respect it.
And we should probably pause and say this is a movie. This is a mystery and a thriller with a lot of like twisty personalities. And, it is a joy to watch it unfold on the screen.
Yes.
So this is one of those cases where I might say, if we start talking about this and it sounds interesting, you might just want to quick pause the podcast and go watch it because I found this to be a worthwhile film.
Yeah, it's a psychological thriller and it's a really good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you want to kick this off, John?
Well, I just want to say... I think we should just get into the plot of the movie, and then there's a couple of things I want to pull out as we go. But let's just go for it. You're driving today, Andy.
Yeah, you bet. I'll do a quick 30-second summary, and then let's just let's do kind of what we did with We Bury the Dead, where we map out like the 3 acts of the movie, and we can each talk about stuff that jumped out at us from those, rather than going through the entire plot, which is pretty meandering and twisty. So
yes. Do you want me to do a 60-second summary of the film before?
Yeah, sure. Why don't you do the summary?
It might even be shorter than that.
Yeah.
So the movie starts with 2 people. They are moving house, and we see one of them going to a school to drop off her daughter for preschool. We haven't seen the daughter. We just see the woman, Sarah. Is it Sarah? It's Ann Lake.
It's Ann.
And her brother, Stevie. We don't know. We think they're married at first, but they're actually brother and sister. So Carolyn Lindley is Ann Lake, and Keir DeLay is Steve. All right, so we see them. They're moving house. They're moving into a new apartment. The mother, Anne, has just stopped by daycare, essentially British daycare. It's set in England to drop off her daughter. Later, she comes back to get her, and her daughter is not there. And her brother doesn't know where her daughter is either. Nobody at the school knows where she is. They call the police. The police can't find her. However, as the movie unfolds, you start to wonder if Bunny is the daughter's name. Her name is Felicia, but they call her Bunny. If Bunny is real, and if she is real, where is she? And if she's not real, what is really going on here? And we'll talk about that as we get to the end. So if that intrigues you, stop and go watch the movie. It's worth it. Not that. Also, if you don't feel like it, like we'll entertain. We're about to entertain you for 45 minutes on this movie, so you might just enjoy that too. Okay, I think that's a good enough summary, Andy, to get started.
So the bulk of this act is two things. First, it's Anne going over to this very charmingly British daycare to drop Bunny off for part of the day. She has some interactions there with the cook at the school, who's later going to become kind of an important character. And having finished moving in, Anne heads back to the daycare to pick up Bunny. When she gets there, though, she wanders in. There's this very fun scene where there's like 40 moms packed into the foyer of the school, all picking up their kids. It might be somewhat familiar if you yourself have gone through that ritual of picking your kid up from school or daycare.
But imagine instead of your daycare, it's like a brownstone house in Chicago that's tightly packed, and all 40 people are packed on the first floor.
So this was we'll see what you want to pull out of this, John.
Yeah.
So this scene really captured that feeling that I think every parent has had on at least a couple of occasions of like losing track of your kid.
Yes.
It is a
moment of realization and panic.
Terrifying experience. And you see her start to get a little nervous as most of the moms pick up their kids and leave, but Bunny still hasn't showed up. And then she starts asking other parents, hey, have you seen my kid Bunny? She asks some of the other students, hey, do you see Bunny? And then she starts asking the staff, where is my daughter? And no one there can remember seeing Bunny, who Anne describes in great detail, like what she was wearing and everything like that.
A blue pinafore dress with red stockings. Yep.
Yeah, and we come to learn that not only has no one seen Bunny or claims that they haven't seen Bunny, but they claim to not have any records that Bunny was ever even enrolled in the school. So this first act is Anne's increased panic. She calls her brother to come help her out in the search. Her brother is staying at his boss's house, I think, which is a big mansion. She calls her brother in to help search, and then they basically go room to room through the school, and ultimately they wind up calling the police. It becomes a whole big deal. Yes. So there's quite a bit of incident happens in this act, John.
Yes.
What do you want to call out? Let me start with a little thing I want to call out, and then I want to hear what. So this is the dumbest possible thing to call out. When Anne is first bringing Bunny to the school, and she winds up in the school kitchen, she's talking to the cook, and the cook is preparing a whole bunch of, do you remember what she's preparing?
Yeah, because it's so funny that you think this is a little thing, because I've done research on this because it was so great.
Me too. She's preparing junket, which I have not ever heard that as a food. So I don't know what research you did. I just went the Wikipedia route, and I had to go like 3 Wikipedia searches deep to figure out exactly what this is. Do you want me to read just the definition of junket?
Yes, please.
Junket is, and this is from Wikipedia, a simple old-fashioned dessert made from milk curdled with rennet, creating a delicate custard-like pudding that's light and easy to digest, often flavored with sugar, vanilla, or nutmeg, and served with fruit or cream. Well, that's great. I mean, it sounds nasty. That's great, but what is rennet? Well, I didn't know what that was either. So another Wikipedia search. Rennet is, and you're really going to start salivating at this.
Yeah.
Rennet is, quote, a complex set of enzymes produced in the stomachs of ruminant mammals. Well, that's great too. That sounds even nastier.
So
what is a ruminant
mammal?
So another Google search, and a ruminant mammal is basically a grazing herbivore.
Okay, great.
herbivore.
Awesome. And the best thing about the junket is the cook and everybody else is talking about how terrible the junket at this school is. Then in a later scene, Laurence Olivier's police inspector comes in and he's like, "Is that junket?
Yeah.
I love this stuff." Like,
Yeah.
that might be the funniest bit in the whole movie.
The internet claimed to me that junket is popular in both the UK and America. I'm an
Huh.
American. I've never heard of it. If you grew up eating junket and you love it, please write in and let us know about the experience.
Yeah, I wonder if it goes by another name. Like maybe it's cottage cheese or something. I don't know. It looked,
Yes.
yeah, it looked disgusting. So
Yes. Yeah. So, all right. That's a little sidestep, though, John. What did you pull out of Act 1 where Anne is desperately searching for Bunny and gets the school authorities and the police and her brother all involved in the search?
yeah, I have three things that I'd like to pull in. Do you want me to do them all now, or should we
Yeah.
alternate?
Just let's barge through them.
So first of all, the director Preminger sets us up perfectly because the very first scene is Steve walking by a swing that is still moving and picking up a toy bear off the ground. That's the very first thing you see in this movie. So the idea that Bunny Lake gets pretty quickly to the idea that Bunny Lake is made up. But every time somebody said that, I went back to that very first shot of the swing still moving, and I'm like, but is she made up? You know?
Yeah.
So that was one thing. Second thing is the tension he builds in this scene of her, like all the parents and then all the kids leaving, like he does not rush it. And the actors in it are great. And, Carol, who's playing Anne, controls her tension really well. Like
Yes.
she starts off not worried, but the way she escalates over the next 5 or 10 minutes is perfectly acted. And the way the director does it, where it seems like a commonplace issue that slowly devolves into a serious issue. Like this is like old-timey filmmaking at its best. It's like a 15-minute sequence that you can't stop watching. A more modern film, and I'm not complaining about modern films, would just drop this on you. Like you just do a cut and she's screaming for her daughter and like, what's going on?
Yeah.
No, we let it burn until we feel her panic as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what else you got?
And the last one is she has this horrible neighbor who's the landlord. And he's super creepy. Like he comes into her house uninvited and like won't leave and is sort of talking in all this innuendo to her. He is apparently a Welsh singer who sings on the BBC. And he's an absolute creeper. But the fascinating thing about that is, did you catch who played Horatio Wilson?
I didn't.
Noel Coward, the playwright from like the 30s. He wrote all these like Queenie gossipy plays about people being horrible and saying horrible things to each other. He was very famous as being like a very sort of risque author. And he would always, I remember Jonathan Pryce was doing an improv version of Noel Coward at one point, and he said, we talked so much about so-and-so and all of it was awful. Like he's a horrible gossip and he was, he sort of, he was big at like think about him in the setting of The Great Gatsby being a chronicler of that time and how horrible everybody is. That's the kind of playwright he was. Anyway, I didn't realize that till after the movie. And I thought that was perfect because he's such a creeper. And so was Noel Coward.
Yeah, absolutely. He's obsessed. He's got this huge collection of African masks,
Yes.
like tribal masks. And this is where, so of course you got to remember we're watching this and, the question that's running in the back of me and John's head is, so where are the zombies?
Right.
So this is where I first perked up at because, is this some sort of, are we establishing some sort of a connection to a tribal culture that's, going to have some sort of zombie connection here? That's where my mind went.
Right.
The film, in fact, that is not what the film is doing at all. But it did make me wonder.
And it uses those masks, for example, as an anchor point.
Yes.
Like when she unpacks a lot of things on the bed, he has set the mask there and the camera lingers on it for a minute. And then later, when she returns and all the things are missing, the mask is still there. So, and it has the same shot. So there's a lot of creative stuff he does with that decor and setting.
Yeah. The other thing I want to mention, just what this act does, is it introduces us to a number of basically weird or fishy individuals.
Yes.
So one of them is Horatio Wilson, the creepy landlord, who continues to be creeped throughout the movie and is going to really start.
And he revels in his creepiness. And
Yeah.
if you know who Noel Coward is, then that will make sense to you.
It's some real effectively uncomfortable scenes with him. They also meet a very strange woman who is one of the owners of the daycare.
Yes.
This is Mrs. Ford, and she's an old lady who lives up in this sort of attic flat above the school. And she is, how would you describe her, John?
She is Stevie describes her as the witch who lives upstairs. She's a very strange woman. She's a shut-in, and she's one of those people who seems kind of crazy but also incredibly wise.
Yeah.
Right?
She claims to be working on a book about children's dreams.
Yes.
And so she's often listening to tape recordings of children describing their dreams and nightmares. So it's not immediately clear what either of these two people, why they might want to like kidnap Bunny, for example.
Right.
But they're also too weird they're just too weird to put them out of suspicion. And the third suspicious person is you have the sense throughout this, and I think this is really good filmmaking, that something is up with brother Steve that you just can't put your finger on.
Yes. And you know what's funny about that is that I thought he was a little intense, but I figured he was just being a rude American, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And my wife she was like doing her thing in the morning, and she was like paying the bills at her computer on the table behind me as I'm watching this on the TV. And she sort of was walking in and out. At one point she stops and looks at him and goes, "Is he the bad guy?" I'm like, "No." And I said, I don't think so. Or no, she said, "Is he the villain?" And I'm like, I don't know that there is a villain in this movie, because at that point I was pretty sure Bunny didn't exist. Anyway, so she picked up that vibe and I did not. So I think it's interesting that you did as well. But yeah, there is something off about him.
Yeah. So the only other thing I want to mention about that first act is once the police get there, and the police superintendent is Laurence Olivier.
Yes.
And a really good, it's a really well done.
In the most, how many British TV shows and movies is there a lead inspector, right?
Yeah.
What superintendent, like the lead of the case. And that Laurence Olivier just takes that role. He doesn't chew the scenery, but he makes his characters seem relatable, human, interesting in the other people, and very charming all at once. So
agreed.
Yeah.
One of the last discoveries they make is that Bunny's toys and toiletries and stuff have vanished from Anne's flat.
Correct.
So we, the viewers, saw these things earlier in the movie. We haven't seen Bunny, but we have seen like her toothbrush and stuff on the bathroom shelf and things. And when Anne gets back to the flat, and the police are out doing their manhunt, she discovers that it seems that someone has come into her flat and taken all of Bunny's stuff, like as if to remove evidence that she existed, right?
Yeah, and this is feeling very M. Night Shyamalan to me, like, oh, that didn't really happen, only she saw it. So at this point in the movie, I'm like, okay, so like she's crazy. That's what I'm thinking.
Yes, and yes. So Act 2 is, the bulk of the film, and a ton happens here. I'll try not to get too deep in the weeds.
Yeah.
The big stuff. This is the act, by the way, where I think I figured out what Brad was getting to, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's first talk about some of the plot stuff. So in Act 2, the manhunt is on in full, but so is everybody's growing suspicion that Bunny is a figment of Anne's imagination.
Correct.
So there is a lot of back and forth with the police.
A lot of procedural. This is the procedural portion of the movie where Laurence Olivier's superintendent is just putting the pieces of the case together. Yes.
And so he's doing things like they're trying to track down any possible witnesses that might have seen Bunny. Did the bus driver remember seeing Bunny? What boat did they come in on from America? Is there a Bunny on the passenger list? So they're running down all of those leads.
Yep.
While everyone is increasingly starting to think that Anne is imagining things. And this is where Steve starts to become a more complicated character.
Yes.
In the first act, he comes across as really overbearing, obnoxious American, but enthusiastic in the defense of his sister. However, in Act 2, he starts like coming to Anne's defense in ways that actually subtly suggests that Anne is crazy. Is that a good way to put it?
That is a good way to put it. Yeah.
So one of the things, for example, that Steve kind of leaks to one of the characters is that when Anne was a young girl, she had an imaginary friend named Bunny, who was a little girl, and that when she was a kid, Anne liked to imagine that Bunny was her daughter.
Exactly.
So, that's starting to look pretty damning for Anne. So what other plot important stuff happens here, John, that we should cover before we talk about what I think is the Easter egg?
Yeah, so as the superintendent becomes more suspicious, I think he is trying to investigate the reality of the situation. And it's really Laurence Olivier's performance that keeps him both practical and grounded, that keeps the movie driving. He's the skeptic, right? We've now moved from we've now moved from Anne's perspective as the panicked mother to the superintendent's perspective as the skeptical policeman.
Yeah.
And now he's driving the second act of the movie.
Yeah. So let me think if there's anything else. So this act ends when Anne remembers something that might be an important clue that could strongly suggest that Bunny was real. So let's call that the end of Act 2, John. A lot happens in this act.
Yeah.
I think there's not really a lot of profit in going through the details, because a lot of it is just interesting conversations and sometimes tense conversations between Anne, the police inspector, the rogues gallery of weirdos that we've met as you try and piece this all together. So there is a really good scene in a pub where Anne and the police inspector are talking.
Yeah.
And the inspector is trying to balance like his skepticism of Bunny's reality with what seems to be a genuine, like care for Anne as a person.
Again,
like
Olivier just makes this sort of, this could be a one-dimensional character just going after the facts. He subtly makes him interesting in multiple ways.
Yeah, exactly. But it was in this pub scene, John, that I think I figured out Brad's game. Is this okay? Well, do you want me to describe it, or do you want to?
Why don't you describe it, and then I'd like to fill in some background information on this whole thing. So, where did you find it? Like, just describe where you found it and what it was.
All right. Yeah. So in the background while they're talking, you can hear the audio of a TV playing.
Yep.
It's the news. And they're reporting on, the search for the missing American girl, et cetera, et cetera. At one point, the bartender reaches up and changes the channel on the TV, and it flips to a music performance.
Yeah. I don't think Top of the Pop has existed yet, but it is a British TV show where bands are performing on TV.
Yes. And let me see. Hang on. I jotted this down. Maybe listeners, if you are a fan of oldies, the song being sung is called "Remember You." So
I think it's Just Out of Reach.
Oh, is it Just Out of Reach? Okay.
Yeah.
At any rate, you remember one or two of the songs because they are sung by a band called
The Zombies.
Yes.
So
okay, let's pause and talk.
So again, I think two things are happening here. I'm not talking about the movie. I'm now talking about producer Brad. So one is he found this delightful factoid about the band The Zombies and found out they were in this movie. He knows full well this movie has nothing to do, but he loved that piece of trivia. He was hoping we would find it. And I think the other thing that he's doing here is he is rewarding us for sitting through months of really tough movies with a really good movie. Like this is a good movie we're enjoying watching. So it's almost like a reward.
Yes.
But I want to say, like, this really speaks to producer Brad's interests really well. So when producer Brad pitched you and I on this podcast, he said, I really want to do something long form. And he said, like, what about all the zombie movies? And we were like, oh, that sounds fun. But one of his inspirations was, and this is where everything sort of comes together. We're now decoding producer Brad. Is that the other thing producer Brad loves is music, and old music and new music and all of it. He loves covers. He makes lists, playlists, everything. One of his favorite podcasts he tried to get me into before we did this one was a movie called The History of Rock and Roll in 500 Songs. And this guy is producing an episode every other week, detailed research on hit songs in the Billboard 100 charts from like the 60s through today, and every episode is just one song. And so his love of music and his love of these detailed facts and these long form projects is kind of how we got to this exact point. If that makes any sense.
It does.
Yeah.
So, hey, do you want me to take a minute to just do 30 seconds on the history of the Zombies, the band?
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the Zombies, Andy.
All right. So the Zombies. So first of all, Brett or John, do you know the Zombies?
I heard the name, but I don't know them. When I first
Okay.
looked up this song, it was actually recorded by somebody else. This is very common in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Bands would cover songs written by other people. So it's originally written by a very different person and sung in 1961, and the Zombies turned it into kind of like a rock and roll song.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know the Zombies real well. I do know their first hit, "She's Not There," which is a banger. I've got it on a playlist or two.
Yep.
So the Zombies are a British band. They formed in the early 60s as the Mustangs. They changed their name to the Zombies, although from what I can tell, and this is just, Google search and Wikipedia level here,
Right.
not Brad level research. It
Yeah.
sounds like the name change to the Zombies was more for fun than a carefully thought out, like, thematic name change.
That makes sense.
So they landed their first big hit in 1964 with the single "She's Not There," which, like I said, is a good song. Go fire it up.
Yep.
Their first album was a huge success in the US and a few other countries, but frustratingly for them, not in their native UK, which was disillusioning for the band and caused financial problems.
Interesting.
They recorded a new album called Odyssey and Oracle, but they broke up before it was released. Ironically, the album came out and it was a massive hit and came to be seen as their masterpiece.
Yeah.
But they had broken up, and even after the success, they refused calls by everyone to get the band back together.
Interesting. So this is exactly the same time as the Beatles are taking off, by the way.
Yes. So this is part of the British invasion, the saga there. Amusingly or horrifyingly, when the album was a hit, but the band was no longer available to tour, unscrupulous promoters, particularly in the US,
of course,
put together fake versions of fake The Zombies bands and sent them around on tour. And I did a little bit of digging because that's a fascinating thing. And this wasn't super uncommon. There were fake Animals and fake Archies and other bands. Anytime there was a hot band, but you as the promoter weren't able to bring it to your part of the world, an option open to you was to like gather together some randos and call them the band and tour them around as the band.
That's
amazing. And last little bit of trivia. One of these fake The Zombies band contained 2 future members of ZZ Top.
That is the best piece of trivia we've had in a long time. I will say the way we do that today is like, and I can't remember the names. I remember somebody telling me about this, but a lot of like big, like metal acts, right? Like speed metal acts that can't, maybe they're from Europe or they're from America and they can't get all over the world. They actually have authorized cover bands who kind of tour in their place, and they have their own sort of legacy and fan. So it's like a whole thing, but it's all on the table. It's all above board. It's very strange.
Well, I'll just wrap up this Zombies history bit by so after that, the Zombies did get back together. They all went their various ways into, some stayed in music, some went into other jobs. They occasionally kind of would regroup for a show here or there, but it wasn't all the way in the 2010s. They actually did regroup as the Zombies, and they released new material into the 2020s. Like, think about, these
my God,
they're getting on in
70.
age.
Yeah.
So as of now, though, I think a couple key members are either retired and at least one has passed away. So I think the sun has set on the Zombies, but that is a kind of a wild musical journey.
It's awesome. And producer Brad would be proud of that research, Andy. I'm just saying.
Okay. And but of course, at the very beginning of this journey, they appear on a TV in a pub in this movie.
Yeah.
So
And now in Act 3, they're going to show up again. But so why don't we switch to Act 3?
yeah, sounds good. Okay, so Act 3, things take a big turn, and this really shifts from being a mystery to a psychological mystery to being a thriller.
Yes.
Right? And so let me try to succinctly sum this up. It starts with the revelation, basically, that Brother Steve is the bad guy.
Yes. Can I say something here?
Yes.
I have a factoid. I've been remiss. I didn't actually not look it up. I just forgot to tell you. Brother Steve drives a car.
Oh, I was going to ask you this. Yes.
This car is called a Sunbeam Tiger. We have had one other character drive this car, one of our favorite characters. Any guesses on who that might have been?
Is it Dr. Satan?
It is Dr. Satan.
Yes. It's a sharp-looking little car.
Yeah.
Would this have been a high-end vehicle? Does it convey wealth?
Yes, it would. It would.
Okay.
Yes. Maybe not like Porsche, but it's like a nice British sports car.
Okay. Well, the inciting incident here of Act 3, where we do this shift to a thriller, is Anne remembers, hey, Brother Steve dropped off one of Bunny's dolls at a local toy shop to be repaired. And if I can go, it's still there at the toy shop, presumably. If I've got the receipt for it, if I can go back and produce that doll, that's going to prove, or at least strongly suggest, that Bunny was real. So it's late at night, and Brother Steve is trying to persuade her to not do this, but she runs off on her own at night, and she kind of forces her way into the world's creepiest toy store.
It's nothing but creep. Just imagine doll heads, arms, and legs all over the place, but it's dark and only lit by a lamp, and you know exactly
There's
what this
no
is like.
ceiling light or whatever. You have to use a lantern. So she talks to this creepy old doll maker guy in there who says, yeah, I think I remember that. You'll need to go find it yourself. It's in the world's creepiest basement. The basement where I keep all the doll heads. Yeah.
Yeah, the third act of this movie is, let's see what creepy, weird situations we can put Anne in. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she goes down there and she does indeed find the doll.
Now, we haven't seen this doll.
Right.
And I thought they were referring to the stuffed animal.
So did I.
Steve picked up at first, but that's not it.
Yes. This was, I would say this was a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
But at any rate, she finds the doll, and so she is very excited about this revelation. Who shows up, though, John, to help her out?
Her brother.
Her brother, Steve.
Now, can I say something before we get to there?
Please.
One thing that I think is interesting, and it's subtle isn't the right word, but they don't spell it out for you. Clearly, they have a weird relationship, and they show it, like a dysfunctional one.
Yes.
And they show it early in this act by having Steve be taking a bath.
Yes, this was a weird scene.
And he shouts to Anne, he's like, will you bring me another cigarette? And so she walks up to her brother as he's in the bath, lights a cigarette, and puts it in his mouth. So there's this really intimate moment between brother and sister that just feels a little off base in a conventional relationship, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when Brother Steve, when he arrives he meets Anne in the toy shop, and hey, this is great news, right? Anne runs up to go pay the toy shop owner.
Yep.
And while she's up there, Steve dumps a bunch of oil from the lamp on the doll and sets it on fire.
Yes.
Telling us not only that is he the bad guy, but he also is a nut, right?
Yeah, he's got the big eyes. I don't know if you noticed this. In multiple scenes, they zoom in on the eyes.
Yes.
And they must be using a chemical here because they've made Kier's eyes so dilated you almost can't see the rest of the pupil. And I think and this happens to Anne too. I think this is a subtle enhancement to make him look crazier. Certainly in the next part of this movie, his eyes are like black saucers in his pupils. And I think that's probably, chemically induced to make him even seem nuttier.
I didn't notice that, but it makes total sense. There is a really good shot where the camera zooms in on Steve's face and his eyes in particular. It looks really good.
Yeah, he's like, you suddenly realize that this movie isn't a mystery. It's a horror movie like Psycho, and Steve is Norman Bates.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, it's hard to see this movie existing without Psycho.
Yeah, Psycho's
I don't.
1960, right? And this is
Yeah.
65. So this is like this is a wonderful genre mashup in a way. It's like a noir thriller crossed with Psycho.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know the history of kind of the psychopath in film.
Yeah.
And I would be interested in, when did we, obviously Psycho is, the major film here, but, when did the psychopath arrive? When did we start associating psychopaths with like kind of twisted family,
Yeah.
backstories? At any rate, when Anne runs back down and Steve knocks her out.
Yep.
It kind of
It's like
comically
karate with a judo chop, like Roger Moore, right to the under her jaw.
Yeah, it made me think, not the first movie we watched, it made me think of Captain Kirk, like knocking somebody out, like improbably.
Exactly.
Anyway, he takes her to a hospital. It's in the middle of the night, takes her to a hospital. He, basically warns the doctor, keep her sedated. She's going to be crazy when she wakes up, blah, blah, blah. And then he leaves. She then... she wakes up and she sneaks out of the hospital in kind of an extended stealth escape scene. Do you have anything you want to say about this?
I just want to. This was to me one of the great parts of the movie. I just like to throw some praise on Carol Linnelly here, just for her acting, because you always believe her. She's up against like one of the great ones in Laurence Olivier in that pub scene.
Yeah,
and she's great. And like when she's the distraught mother, she's great. And here, rather than be histrionic or big, she takes agency. She knows what's going on before we do.
yes.
And she doesn't run out of this room. She very cleverly sneaks out of this room and she says nothing. And just her performance here convinced me that, like, I knew Steve was bad news, but it was still like, you still haven't seen Bunny, right? So you're like, all right, this is weird. There's some psychosexual brother sister thing going on here, but is it just Steve that's crazy? Like I didn't know that yet. And her performance here made me think, I think it is just Steve that's crazy. I think she's acting like a rational person.
Yes.
You know what I mean? In escaping the hospital. She knows this is a trap for her.
Yes. And she doesn't run to the police for help. She has figured out, I think, what's going on.
Yeah.
And so she moves to deal with it herself.
Yep.
And so once she sneaks out of the hospital, again, it's a great scene.
One last thing about that scene, though. In the basement, the janitor in the boiler room is listening to that zombie song again.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. Yes. I think Just Out of Reach is the song that recurs, right?
Yes.
It's usually...
there are two songs in the pub, but it zooms
Mm.
in when they're singing Just Out of Reach.
And the lyrics of that song feel thematically appropriate with what's happening on the screen at that time. It made me wonder when the first time you see that kind of like diegetic music. So at any rate, Anne goes to not back to her flat, not back to the police to report what's going on, but she goes to the mansion where brother Steve is staying. And we get this is the finale scene of the movie. It's quite extended, and it is a remarkable scene.
Yes.
If you like a good suspenseful, scene of people sneaking around in the dark and trying not to let the psycho crazy guy see them, this scene is for you. Long story short, she kind of forces her way into the house and she sees Steve. He is burning and getting ready to bury a bunch of stuff that I think belonged to Bunny. Is that right? All of Bunny's stuff.
Yeah, we see that stuffed animal at the beginning. I think we see the coffee. He picks up the coffee mug at one point. So there are things we recognize, plus some other stuff. Yeah.
So it's worth noting. So we still haven't seen Bunny yet. It still isn't clear what is going on. So Anne sneaks around and stalks Steve as he heads out into the backyard where there is a small, like, grave-shaped hole that he's dug. He puts all of Bunny's stuff into there, and then, as if remembering something abruptly, this was
bizarre. Yeah,
he turns and he sprints back through the house out to his car. He opens the trunk, and here, at long last, we finally see
Bunny.
She's
real, and she's been trapped in his trunk all day.
Yes. So she's kind of sluggish and out of it. So he hauls Bunny back out. And I think it's made pretty clear that he intends to kill Bunny and bury her
Yes.
here, right?
Yep.
And so this is, tell me how you want to talk about this scene, John, or what you want to call out, because at a certain point, Anne reveals herself to Steve, and we get the movie's climactic sequence, which is Anne, who is desperate to save Bunny,
Yeah.
but must interact with Steve in a way to keep him from just killing Bunny or Anne or both of them. So,
Yeah.
so why don't you tell us about this scene, John?
Well, it's interesting because she essentially manipulates him, and she realizes who he is. I think she might have known before, but she talks to him like a little sister talking to a little brother. And when she adopts that stance with him and talks to him in that way, he becomes very enthusiastic, as if he's drawn back to childhood and is willing to go along with what she says. So, for example, rather than scream at him, like he's got Bunny, and rather than scream at him at the beginning, because she knows, I mean, this would be interesting on modern film, because I think we have a different view of power dynamics. And in a modern film, I think she might try to like assault him or sneak away to stab him or something. And I'm not saying that would be boring. It's just not how it would have been done in 1965.
Yes.
So what she does is she's like, Stevie, you're so smart. You were so clever. When did you sneak Bunny out? And he's like, I know I'm so clever. And he tells her like how he snuck Bunny out of the school. So what, then they become like two children talking in that point. And this is how she sort of extends this scene. I think she's trying to escape, but she's also waiting for the police to figure it out and come. And so keeps recommending fun games they could play. And when she puts her attention on him, like he is her focus, and talks to him like a child, he goes along.
Yeah, he like regresses to that childhood state. And it's chilling because, you know, after a while, he'll revert back to his more murderous psycho phase.
Yes.
And then you can see Anne frantically trying to think, like, how else can I just keep this going until either help arrives or an opportunity to escape presents itself.
Yeah, and she keeps trying to escape. I don't mean to give the impression she doesn't have agency. She is trying to figure out how to get out with a 4-year-old girl, but it is hard to climb a fence with a 4-year-old girl, for example. Yeah.
So this goes on for a while. It's really great. So we learn in this, you know, Steve we learn why he has kidnapped Bunny and is going to kill Bunny. It's because he resents Bunny for coming between him and his sister in the same way that he resented. We learn that when Anne was a girl, she had that imaginary friend named Bunny. Steve insisted that they kill Bunny because that imaginary friend was getting in between their relationship. And in the same way, he is now going to kill the real girl Bunny so that he can have a perfect close relationship with the sister again.
Yeah, and I want to bring up something here that we haven't talked about, and we were probably remiss. So Anne is a single mother. And proud of that fact. And when Laurence Olivier's inspector sort of quizzes her on it, he's not actually as judgmental as I thought he would be. But she basically says, look, I got pregnant by this person. I did not want to spend the rest of my life with them, and they didn't want to spend it with me. So I have just chosen to become a single mother. And she's very clear about that. So in this scene where Stevie is freaking out, not only does he resent Bunny for getting between him and Anne, he resents that boy. He calls him that boy that dirty boy who got you pregnant. Like he resents him too. So she's jealous of any intimate. It's almost like Obsession, but in 1965.
Interesting. Yeah. So there is a great tense scene, John. It's like not quite a jump scare, but is a really good one where Bunny has gotten away from Steve, who is playing blind man's bluff. So she put a blindfold on. It's very good.
Right.
And then she has snuck off with Bunny, and she realizes she can't climb over the fence with Bunny. So she sneaks into this greenhouse and hides Bunny there.
Yep.
And basically says, I'll be right back. And then she steps out of the greenhouse. She locks the greenhouse door behind her as she goes out of the greenhouse. And then the camera immediately pans, and Steve was in the greenhouse.
Yes.
So now she's locked out of the greenhouse, and
it
Steve's
was a
in
great,
the
like, oh shit moment. Like, uh-oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So that all leads, though, to the final scene where it looks like the game is not working as well, and Steve looks pretty determined to kill Bunny.
Yes.
So as a last-ditch attempt, Anne runs over. Well, why don't you describe it, John?
So she runs over, and then she cannot convince him. He's in full mute psycho mode. He's no longer a little boy.
And she has now started just to openly beg him, don't do this. Don't do this.
And that's not working. So she goes to the swing that we saw in the very first shot, and she starts swinging. And she says, Stevie, won't you push me on the swing? And he gets really excited again and runs over. And there's this really intense scene of him pushing her and her getting higher and higher. And like the camera is spinning around. And she's like, I want to touch the sky. Like it's this super intense psychodrama scene going on here. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's making a lot of noise. And that is when the police burst through.
Yes.
Because parallel to this, the police have been following up on leads. And I thought it was kind of interesting that the police aren't portrayed as buffoons in any way.
No.
In this.
You see them, what you do is at the end of the second act, you see them about to discover the crucial clue, right? And then we cut away from them for most of the third act.
Yes.
And then they come in having figured out that clue.
So yeah, while this has all been going on, the police have been running down some leads, and basically they caught out a lie that Steve told them. It's about just a schedule, about what date they showed up, and that lets them find a passenger manifest, and that brings it all down, and they show up here, and the movie ends.
Yeah.
With Steve in custody and Bunny walking off.
Yeah, Anne and Bunny walking off. She's holding her, and she's going to go home to their apartment. Now, I think they're, again, in a modern movie, she would have like some support system or something, but Laurence Olivier is like, I think you just need to go home and have a stiff drink and go to bed. Which is like the British solution for everything, a stiff drink and a good night's sleep, I guess.
So that is a wrap on Bunny Lake is Missing, a film I had never heard of until I watched it this week, and that had nothing to do with zombies, or did it? And John, do you want to go through some of our questions here, or does it not really make sense?
I don't think it makes sense. I just want to say this. Some may consider this a practical joke. I considered it a wonderful adventure, and I loved seeing this movie.
Yes, so. The next time I see Brad in person, I am going to congratulate him on getting us to watch this cool movie and do what felt like a little scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
But I am going to slap him in the face with my most expensive glove at the same time. So. Okay,
Excellent.
John, why don't we, do you have any final thoughts about the movie?
You should watch it. Even if we spoiled it for you, like it's a pretty, like it's one of those movies, and I hate to sound like somebody whose brain is broken by his phone, but just like everybody else, it is a little bit. Like I really didn't look at my phone during the movie. I really wanted to know what was going on. I was compelled by the action and the actors and the whole thing. So it's a good movie. You should watch it.
And it is, so I think this is our longest movie, if you don't count J'accuse, which was like 4 hours from 1919. This movie was like an hour and 45 minutes, I think.
Yeah,
and
hour
it doesn't feel like it.
to...
We've watched like hour and 10-minute movies that felt like they were 3 hours. This is the opposite of that. So
no, it's great.
John, I just have one final wrap-up question then. There is one question that is relevant. John,
yes.
Is this a zombie movie, a movie with zombies, or a movie with the zombies?
It's a movie with the zombies.
Okay. All right. Any other wrap-up we need to do here?
No, that's it. I just want to thank everyone for listening. Andy and I are going to have a little fun in between seasons here. We've got a couple other fun things planned.
Yes.
So look out for those. Stand by. Please rate us in iTunes or Spotify. Give us a good rating. Subscribe. Tell all your friends. And we will see you next time on Zombie Strains. You've been listening to Zombie Strains. We'll be back next episode to talk about another zombie movie. If you enjoyed our podcast, please take a moment to rate us in your podcast app of choice. Tell a friend. Follow us on Instagram at Zombie Strains. All of this helps like-minded people find the show. See you next time.